indigenous people who were already living here had been making maple syrup for a long, long time. And they did this by cutting a slash into the tree, and then when the sap came out, they would collect it in containers made of birch bark. Does everybody know what birch bark is? No? So it's bark that comes from a tree called a birch tree, and it's really good at holding liquids. So they'd make a container, collect the sap, and then they'd bring the sap over to something like this. This is a hollowed out log. If I want to get rid of some of that water, I've heard someone already say it, how am I going to get rid of that water? Now, can I take this wooden log and put it on the fire and boil the sap inside of it? No. So instead of putting the log on the fire, these people had to figure out a way to bring the fire to the log. And to do that, they took these two sticks and they used them to pick up a very hot rock.
Okay.
And then they put the rock
Inside?
Yes.
This is the way.
Can you see what's rising off of it?
Yeah.
You know what that is? It's water. It's water being released. And as the water goes, it gets more and more sugary. Do you think this method would have taken a short amount of time? No. It took a very long time. Does anyone want to guess how long? Any thoughts? Guesses? It took about 24 hours to get it from sap down to sugar. They weren't aiming for maple syrup like we make today. They were trying to make maple sugar. So sugar, a solid. And that's because, again, picture yourself here 300 years ago. There's no grocery stores. All of your winter food is almost gone. There's no baby animals running around yet. There's not much growing yet. That sugar was really important to keep them alive. They didn't have much other food. And they couldn't really store liquids as easily, so they liked to make a solid and use it for quick energy until they had other food sources. Okay, they taught this method to the European settlers as they came here, and we're going to see at our next stop how they improved that technique and made it their own. So let's move on. Do you guys know the story of Goldilocks and the Three Bears?
Yeah.
Yeah? This is what I like to call Goldilocks and the Three Pots. So we have the daddy pot, the mommy pot, and the baby pot on the end. This method was designed by the first Europeans to come here, the pioneers, and they had something that the native people didn't. They had cast iron pots. These pots, they weren't just for making maple syrup. They were for everything from doing your laundry to washing your babies to making maple syrup. Maybe that made their maple syrup baby flavored. I don't know. But they would start by taking their buckets of sap and dumping them into the daddy pot. The daddy pot is right over the fire. It's really hot. It's basically like the high setting on your stove at home. It pretty much just looks like water in here. I'll show you guys. This is hot, so don't stick your finger in there. But it just looks like water because it's sap still. You can see lots and lots of steam coming off of this.
Yeah.
We're trying to get rid of a lot of that water right now. Once it starts to get a little bit less watery, we move it into the mommy pot. At this stage, it's kind of like being on medium on your stovetop. So a little bit more sugar. You can see the color has started to change a bit. Looks like apple juice maybe. At this point, we're starting to get worried that we're going to burn the sugar if we cook it too hot. So we want to put it over medium heat now. As the mommy pot gets less and less water, we'll move it into the baby pot. And this is where it's just right. So we are boiling it down till it's maple syrup in this pot. And you can see much darker now. We just want a little bit of heat. We don't want to burn the sugar. So it's still liquid. That wouldn't be finished. At this stage in history, they were still trying to make maple sugar. So they were still trying to get it down to a solid. And I will show you. This block is about the size of a block of maple sugar that they would make. If a family was very lucky, they might make 12, maybe 13 of these in a year, for the whole year.
Wow.
So sugar was very special. I don't know about you, but I eat about this much sugar in a day. But for them, it was saved for things like Christmas, maybe Easter, the Queen's birthday, things like that. It was definitely a luxury. One more thing about this method, it's a lot easier than the last one was. It doesn't take nearly as much time. Do you want to guess how long this one took?
Maybe 6 hours.
12 hours. We've halved the time. We went from 24 to 12. But this is still not the most pleasant process in the world. I don't know about you guys, but I'm standing right in a bunch of smoke. And there's an open flame behind me. Anybody notice what I'm wearing? I'm wearing a long skirt, as the people who were tending these fires would have been. So it was kind of a dangerous job. Women definitely got their skirts singed every now and then. Burned, yes, burned. But it was worth it to get that sugar they needed. Any questions before we move on?
No?
No? Okay, we're going to jump forward another 100 years to the time period I'm dressed for. Okay, we've skipped forward another 100 years. We're in the period of my costume, so when this family would have been alive and making maple syrup, this is probably how they would have done it. Now, by this point, that cast iron we saw back there had become much more easy to get, to use, and they started to design things for just one purpose. So they would not wash their babies in this pot. They wouldn't do their laundry in this pot. This pot was just for making maple syrup. And it's a special pot. It's different than the last one. I'm going to show you why. If I just drop my spoon. Okay, can you make a U with your hands for me? A U like this. This is our last pot. If the fire's down here, what part of this pot is getting hot?
Down.
Yeah, just the bottom, right? But if I go like this, the fire's coming from down here. What part's getting hot now?
All.
Yeah, lots more of this is getting hot. And that means that more of that water can be lost at a time, and it's a quicker process. You can see it's already starting to change color there.
Now.
How long do you think?
6.
6
The half-
hours.
the
We
half of
have
the
that time again. Went from 24 to 12 to
Yes,
6.
This time, yeah.
And this time they might be aiming to make maple syrup like we have today. So we've made it much more quick. Do people still make maple syrup like this today?
No.
They can. They certainly can. But the stuff that you buy in the store is usually made with something called an evaporator. We have one here at the park. We make our own maple syrup with it. And it's just like this, but they put extra channels in it to get more heat touching that water at a time. Anyone want to guess how long a modern day evaporator takes?
1 hour.
3
3 hours, 2
hours.
1 hours. You would think it would be 3 with the pattern we're doing, but it's actually 6.
Same.
It's the same. The difference is, with this one, I'm here for 6 hours. I cook one batch, I pour it out, put more sap in, and I have to start again. With the evaporator, once the first batch is through, you can start another one, and another one, and another one. So after the first batch, they make about 1 liter of syrup every hour.
Okay.
So it's a much more efficient way of doing things. It's quicker.
Yeah.
Now, I think, Andrew, should we take them for a little treat?
Sure.
Okay, so I'm going to take you guys along to my favorite place on the farm. It's called the Candy Shack.
Nice.
And that's where we make maple sugar. So during the festival, if you do come back, you can watch them making it. We're going to take you guys to try it and show you how they would make it. And Andrew, do you want to lead them around? Or am I closer here? I'm closer here. All right. Please follow me this way. There are 3 colors there. After I do this, I can tell you why. Okay. Welcome to the Candy Shanty, my favorite place. If you guys were here during the festival, we would be making candy. So we would have this stove on. This stove is powered by a wood fire. We put wood in there. We light it up, and we have a nice hot stove. And then we take these great big pots. We put only about 1 inch of maple syrup into them. About this much. 5 centimeters of syrup into our pot. We put it on the hot stove. We let it bubble to kind of looks like soap bubbles. For 5, 10, maybe 15 minutes, depends on the weather and how fast a stirrer you are. But you stir until you start to feel little grains of sugar forming. That's when you know you've gotten rid of enough of that water that you started to form sugar from the syrup. Then you can pour it into molds, you scrape it down, and you have fresh sugar candies to eat. So, into this pot, I don't add anything special. It's just maple syrup. That's all these candies are made of.
You want to try some?
Yeah? Okay, I have a plate here. You're all welcome to take a piece. And you want to demonstrate how to eat it?
Okay. Take the candy. You can eat it fast, or you can suck on it and let it dissolve in your mouth. Delicious either way.
He likes that part. I do for him.